Imagine waking up one day and realizing that the world does not reward goodness, fairness, or even honesty but power. Not the kind of power we read about in heroic myths, where noble kings protect their people, but the raw, unsettling power that bends wills, silences opposition, and commands respect whether deserved or not. Now imagine you are standing in a crowded room, full of people smiling, clapping, nodding politely, and yet, behind every gesture lurks calculation. No one smiles because they love you. They smile because they fear you, or worse, because they want something from you. What would you prefer in that moment, to be loved, or to be feared? This is not a simple question. It is a question that rips apart the fragile fabric of morality we cling to. We are raised on the belief that love is pure, that kindness wins, loyalty, that fairness will be recognized. But deep within you, in a place you rarely dare to confront, there is another whisper. What if fear is stronger? Think about the paradox. To be loved is to depend on the fragile warmth of human affection, icily withdrawn the moment it is inconvenient. To be feared, however, is to secure a weapon far colder, yet far more reliable. Love may inspire loyalty, but fear enforces it. Love may lift you when times are good, but fear ensures that even in betrayal, the dagger hesitates. And yet, does the pursuit of fear not poison the soul? What does it mean to walk through life with respect, born not of admiration, but of intimidation? What does it do to the human heart to realize that the world bows not because it cares for you, but because it dares not oppose you? Here lies the paradox that Machiavelli whispered centuries ago in The Prince, that to rule effectively, to command lasting authority, one must understand the limits of morality. He did not ask whether it was virtuous to be feared. He asked whether it was useful. His cold pragmatism still stabs at us today, because it exposes a truth we would rather not confront. People respect strength more than goodness. But here's the unsettling twist. This is not merely about princes, kings, or presidents. It is about you. Your relationships, your career, your ability to stand tall in a world where competition is ruthless. Have you not felt it annoying? Frustration when kindness is taken for weakness. The sting when fairness leaves you overlooked, while the cunning rise above you. The bitter recognition that sometimes those who manipulate, intimidate, and dominate are the ones who command respect. If fear indeed commands more than love, then what becomes of you, the one who still clings to the belief that authenticity and warmth are enough? Will you not be devoured by those who understand the darker mechanics of human nature? Or worse, will you forever remain invisible, ignored, dismissed, unrespected? But before you answer, pause. This is not merely a question of tactics. It is a question of existence, because what you choose, love or fear, shapes not only how others respond to you, but also how you respond to yourself. To embrace fear as a weapon is to acknowledge that human beings are not purely noble, that trust is fragile, and that power, in its truest form, is almost always tinged with cruelty. To cling to love, however, is to risk being broken by a world that may never reward it. So I ask you again, would you rather be loved or feared? And more importantly, why do you hesitate? The hesitation itself is revealing. It is the battleground between your moral upbringing and your survival instinct. It is the tension between your desire to be seen as good and your yearning to be untouchable. It is the silent war between your conscience and your hunger for respect. But what if the true question is not love versus fear, but how to wield both? What if the secret to command is not the absence of morality, but its strategic use? When to reveal kindness and when to cloak yourself in terror? What if the most dangerous individual is the one who knows how to blend affection with intimidation, ensuring that love may draw people in, but fear prevents them from leaving? And yet such knowledge does not come without a price. For to step into that realm is to abandon innocence. It is to stare unflinchingly at the hidden forces that govern human behavior, forces of psychology, philosophy, and primal instinct. It is to confront the unsettling truth that beneath the layers of culture and morality, we are creatures still ruled by dominance, submission, and survival, which leads us to the great question that will haunt everything that follows. If respect requires fear, then what kind of person must you become to command it, and can you live with that version of yourself? The answer is not simple, nor is it comforting. But it is here, in this haunting contradiction, that the real journey begins. The real problem is not the question of fear versus love itself. The real problem lies hidden beneath the surface. You have been conditioned to believe that respect comes naturally, that if you are good enough, kind enough, talented enough, the world will simply recognize it. But history, psychology, and philosophy all testify to a darker truth. Respect is not granted freely. It is taken, demanded, enforced. Carl Jung once wrote that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. But what if part of that acceptance is acknowledging the shadow, the dark, ruthless side of human nature you pretend isn't there? Society tells you to suppress it, to behave, to conform, to present only the mask of civility. And yet, every time you silence your assertiveness, every time you swallow your anger, every time you smile when you want to snarl, you strengthen the very chains that bind you. This is the hidden problem. You are split in two. On the surface, the persona friendly, agreeable, moral, but beneath it, the shadow a reservoir of aggression, dominance, and raw instinct. The more you deny it, the more it erupts unconsciously, sabotaging your life. Think about the times you failed to speak up, only to resent it later. The times you allowed others to walk over you, smiling outwardly while inside you burned with silent rage. The times you tried to win love, only to discover that those you sought to please respected you less for it. Nietzsche, in his ruthless clarity, once declared that morality is often the tool of the weak to restrain the strong. What you call virtue may often be cowardice in disguise. Your reluctance to assert yourself, your hesitation to demand respect, your desperate need to be liked are these virtues? Or are they simply the echoes of a slave morality, drilled into you by a culture that fears the power of individuals who refuse to bow? Look around you. From childhood, you were taught to raise your hand, wait your turn, play nice, share equally. These lessons have value, yes, but they also trained you to suppress your will. You learned to seek approval, to avoid conflict, to confuse niceness with strength. And now, as an adult, you wonder why people overlook you, why your voice feels drowned out in meetings, why your kindness is mistaken for weakness. It is not because you lack intelligence or skill. It is because you have been psychologically conditioned to believe that respect is something bestowed, rather than something seized. Arthur Schopenhauer observed that human beings are driven not by reason but by the blind, irrational will to survive and dominate. Beneath the veneer of civilization, every interaction still carries traces of hierarchy, power, and intimidation. The way someone enters a room, the way they carry their body, the way their voice commands attention, these subtle cues signal dominance, and whether consciously or not, others submit. You know this instinctively. Haven't you felt your stomach tighten in the presence of someone who radiates authority? Haven't you noticed how groups fall silent when a true leader speaks, not because of love, but because of the gravity of power they emanate? And yet, you hesitate to claim that power for yourself. Why? Because to embrace it feels dangerous, almost immoral. To step into fear as a tool means becoming something you were told never to be: hard, calculating, potentially cruel. But ask yourself, is cruelty always wrong, or is it sometimes necessary? Viktor Frankl, writing from the depths of suffering in concentration camps, argued that meaning arises not from comfort but from the confrontation with suffering. If this is true, then perhaps the meaning of power is not in wielding it selfishly, but in recognizing its necessity. If you cannot command respect, if you cannot assert boundaries, if you cannot make others hesitate before crossing you, then how will you live with dignity? The hidden problem, then, is twofold. First, you have been deceived into believing that fear is always negative, and second, you have been psychologically trained to ignore your own capacity for it. This double deception leaves you powerless, dependent on the fickle approval of others. Aldous Huxley once warned that the deepest form of control is the one in which people learn to love their servitude. Isn't that exactly what has happened? You have been taught to seek validation, to crave being liked, to win smiles and applause. Noticing that the people who command the most respect rarely beg for it. They exude it, they enforce it, and when necessary, they make others afraid of losing it. This is why you feel a quiet frustration with yourself, even when you succeed. Something inside you knows that approval is not the same as respect. Sense that people may like you, but they do not fear crossing you. And without that hedge, every victory feels fragile, every relationship precarious. You become a servant of love, rather than a master of respect. The philosophers, the psychologists, the prophets of power all point to the same conclusion. The hidden problem is not the cruelty of the world, it is your refusal to see it as it is. You long for a just universe, but you live in a jungle disguised. As a society, you tell yourself that kindness will be rewarded, but in truth, it is strength that shields you. You pray that love will bind people to you, but often it is fear that keeps them from betraying you. And so you stand at the threshold of a realization most people never dare to face. The root of your struggle is not that others fail to respect you. It is that you have been conditioned to believe you must earn respect through goodness. when, in reality, respect is commanded through power. But if this is true, what does it mean for the life you've built on the pursuit of love and approval? What becomes of your relationships, your career, your very identity, if fear proves to be the stronger force? And what are the unseen consequences of denying this truth for too long? You may think the cost of clinging to love over fear is small, even noble, but the consequences are neither small nor noble, they are devastating. Because every time you choose to be liked instead of respected, every time you soften your words when firmness was required, every time you tolerate disrespect rather than demand recognition, you are silently carving yourself into something lesser. You are teaching the world how to treat you. Respect is a currency, and when you fail to guard it, you bleed value without noticing. Slowly, imperceptibly, you are diminished. Consider how it plays out in everyday life. In your career, the agreeable employee who works tirelessly, always says yes, and avoids conflict rarely rises to the top. They are appreciated, yes, they are liked, but they are not feared. And because they are not feared, their worth is negotiated down, their boundaries ignored, their contributions taken for granted. Meanwhile, the one who dares to set limits, who asserts authority, who carries an aura of "don't cross me," they may not be liked, but they are respected, and respect translates into power, influence, and survival. In relationships, the one who endlessly accommodates, who bends over backward to avoid conflict, often becomes invisible. Love without fear mutates into dependency. The partner who cannot lose you is not respected, because deep down people respect only that which they could also lose. Without boundaries, without the possibility of absence, love becomes a soft prison, and so many spend years wondering why their devotion is not enough, never realizing that their refusal to enforce respect is what makes them disposable. Psychology offers a brutal explanation for this dynamic. Human beings are wired with cognitive biases that tilt toward dominance. Studies of social hierarchies reveal that we instinctively sort people into leaders and followers based not on their kindness, but on their ability to project authority. Neurologically, fear activates the amygdala more sharply than love activates reward centers. Fear is primal. It seizes the body. It commands attention. Love, though powerful, is gentler, slower, easily ignored when temptation or pressure intrudes. And so, when you fail to wield fear, you are not just choosing a moral stance, you are fighting against the wiring of the human brain itself. You are asking others to treat you with respect without triggering the mechanisms that demand it. You are begging the lion to treat you as an equal while refusing to bear your own claws. The consequences of this denial accumulate over time. They shape your identity in ways you may not even see. Think of the countless nice people you have met, always agreeable, endlessly pleasant, but strangely hollow. Beneath their smiles lies bitterness, an unspoken resentment that the world does not reward their sacrifices. They say yes when they want to scream no. They laugh at jokes that belittle them. They compromise endlessly, and yet they wonder why. People walk past them as if they were furniture. This is the unseen tragedy. When fear is absent, love curdles into pity, and pity is the enemy of respect. But there is more. On a societal level, when fear is stripped away, power vacuums form. Think of governments that collapse not because their leaders were cruel, but because they were too merciful, too trusting. History is littered with rulers who believed their subjects' love would sustain them, only to be overthrown by rivals, who understood that fear secures loyalty more reliably than affection. Rome fell not because it lacked ideals, but because it grew soft, indulgent, and unwilling to wield fear when necessary. Now scale this down to your life. What does it mean for you to live without fear as a tool? It means you leave yourself open to betrayal, manipulation, dismissal. It means you walk through a world of predators armed only with good intentions, as if morality were armored. It means you risk becoming invisible not because you lack value, but because you lack the gravity that compels people to acknowledge it. And invisibility is a slow death. It eats at you quietly, until one day you wake up and realize that no one listens when you speak. No one hesitates before interrupting you. No one remembers your absence, because you never made them feel the weight of your presence. You were loved, perhaps, but you were not feared, and so you were never truly respected. This truth is so uncomfortable that most people run from it. They tell themselves that being nice is enough, that patience and humility will eventually be rewarded. They cling to stories where kindness triumphs, ignoring the harsher tales where mercy led to ruin. But denial does not erase consequence, it only deepens the trap. Jean-Paul Sartre argued that human beings are condemned to be free that we cannot escape the burden of choice. To reject the path of fear is still a choice, and like all choices, it carries consequences. To deny fear is not to avoid it, it is to allow others to wield it against you. And every time someone uses intimidation, dominance, or authority to silence your voice, you are living inside the consequence of your refusal to face this truth. So here you are, caught in the web of the unseen. A life where you are liked but not respected, heard but not obeyed, present but not remembered. A life where you confuse being harmless with being virtuous, never realizing that the two are not the same. The true consequence of rejecting fear is not just weakness, it is irrelevance, and once irrelevance sets in, how long before you cease to recognize yourself? How long before you look in the mirror and see not the person you dreamed of becoming, but a faded version of yourself, kind, polite, invisible? This is the fate you risk if you continue to cling to illusions. And yet, it is not the only path, because for those who dare, there exists another way: the rebellion, a way to reclaim fear as an ally, to fuse it with love, to command respect that cannot be stolen. But to take that path, you must first abandon the comforting lies and accept the harsh clarity of power. To this point, we have lingered in shadows, examining how conditioning, denial, and misplaced faith in love erode respect. But now comes the rebellion, and rebellion always begins with a decision. Will you continue being shaped by the world's expectations, or will you seize the terrifying freedom to shape yourself? Breaking free does not mean becoming cruel for cruelty's sake. It means reclaiming your shadow, acknowledging that fear is not your enemy but your weapon. You cannot command respect without it. The rebellion begins with unmasking the lie that being harmless is the same as being good. Harmlessness is weakness dressed in moral clothing. Goodness, on the other hand, is power restrained by choice. To rebel is to stop being harmless and start being dangerous enough that people know they cannot cross you, even when you choose mercy. Carl Jung once said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." To rise into true authority, you must sink into your shadow and integrate it. Your rage, your aggression, your hunger for dominance, they are not flaws to erase, they are forces to master. A sword does not stop being a weapon because it is sheathed. You must carry yours openly, even if you never swing it. How does this look in practice? It begins with presence. Power is not always in words or actions, but in the silent aura you project. When you walk into a room, do you shrink or expand? Do your eyes dart nervously, or do they settle, unwavering, on those around you? Presence is the body declaring, "I am here, I am not to be ignored." Practice this until it is instant. Stand straighter, move slower, speak less, but with weight. Each pause is not hesitation, but a demand that others fill the silence with their attention. Next comes boundaries. Without them, love suffocates and respect evaporates. To rebel is to stop apologizing for having lines no one may cross. If someone disrespects you, you correct them immediately, calmly, without anger but with finality. When you enforce boundaries consistently, people begin to feel the edges of your presence. Like walls they dare not breach. They may not always love you for it, but they will respect you, and respect lasts longer than affection. Then there is unpredictability. Machiavelli understood this well. A leader who is too predictable becomes easy to manipulate. A degree of uncertainty keeps others cautious. Do not always say yes. Do not always reveal your intentions. Keep some of your power veiled, your reactions unpredictable. Fear thrives in the unknown. If people cannot always calculate your response, they must tread carefully. That caution is respect. But rebellion is not only external, it is deeply internal. You must kill the part of you addicted to approval. This is perhaps the hardest step, because your brain has been wired for validation since childhood. You have been rewarded for being agreeable, punished for defiance. To break free is to rewire your mind. The next time you feel the urge to explain yourself endlessly, to justify your choices, to beg for understanding, stop, allow silence. Let others feel the discomfort of your refusal to plead for acceptance. That silence is power. Nietzsche urged us to become who we are. He meant that conformity strangles individuality, and only those who embrace their raw will to power can truly live authentically. To break free, then, is to shed the false morality that told you strength is shameful. It is to embrace your capacity for dominance, while still choosing where and how to wield it. For what is nobility, if not power harnessed with restraint? History is rich with examples of those who dared this rebellion. Consider Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor. He was loved by many, but also feared for his unwavering discipline and authority. His respect was not purchased by pleasing everyone, but by embodying strength tempered with wisdom. Or think of Winston Churchill during the Second World War. He was not adored for his softness, but respected for his iron resolve, even when his words cut like steel. These figures prove a timeless truth. Respect is built not by choosing between love and fear, but by commanding both, using fear as the foundation upon which love can stand. But rebellion also demands sacrifice. When you choose respect over approval, you will lose some people. Friends who valued you only for your pliability will fall away. Colleagues who thrived on your compliance will resent your new boundaries. Lovers who exploited your willingness to bend may vanish. Let them, their absence is not a loss, but a purification. What remains are those who respect use them out of admiration, others out of caution. Both forms are valuable, and here lies the paradox. When you no longer chase approval, when you embody strength unapologetically, the love you do receive becomes more authentic. People love what they cannot control. They love what they respect. And respect, born from the potential for fear, makes love solid. Without fear, love is fragile. With it, love becomes indestructible. This is the rebellion, rejecting the comfort of being liked and embracing the fire of being respected. It is not easy. It will feel unnatural at first, even brutal. But the alternative is worse. A life where you fade into invisibility, liked by all, remembered by none. So ask yourself now, are you ready to rebel against the conditioning that made you harmless? Are you ready to stand in your own shadow and wield it, instead of hiding from it? Are you ready to stop begging for respect and start commanding it? Because only when you answer yes does the final stage reveal itself. Only then can you grasp the ultimate truth, the realization that transcends both love and fear, the insight that rewrites how you see power, respect, and yourself. The final, most powerful realization. You have walked through shadows. You have seen the paradox of love and fear, uncovered the hidden problem of conditioning, traced the unseen consequences of weakness, and entered rebellion by reclaiming your shadow. But now comes the final revelation, the ultimate truth that makes sense of it all. The truth is this: fear and love are not opposites, they are not even rivals. They are two halves of a single force. Respect. Think carefully. Love without fear dissolves into pity. Fear without love decays into hatred. But when both exist together, they fuse into something indestructible. Respect is born not from affection alone, nor from intimidation alone, but from the tension between the two. It is a rope pulled tight between love and fear, and only in that tautness does true authority emerge. This realization is unsettling because it strips away illusions. You are told to choose to be kind or cruel, soft or hard, loved or feared. But the reality is that the strongest among us never choose. They weave. They understand that human beings are complex, contradictory, and bound by paradox, and so they do not live in one extreme. They dance between both, shaping themselves into a figure others cannot ignore. Look at those who command respect across history. They are never one-dimensional. Alexander the Great inspired devotion, yet his armies feared his wrath. Queen Elizabeth I charmed her subjects, yet courtiers trembled at her disfavor. Even Machiavelli himself, cold in theory, revealed through his writings that the ideal ruler is not merely feared, but feared enough that love becomes secure under its shadow. The ultimate truth, then, is that respect is not about choosing power over morality, or cruelty over kindness. It is about becoming whole, integrating shadow and light, mercy and ferocity, the capacity to wound and the capacity to heal. Respect is the equilibrium point where people love you because they admire you, but fear you because they know your boundaries are unbreakable. And here is the deeper layer. The one you fear most is not others, but yourself. You fear your own potential for dominance, your own hunger for command, your own ability to terrify. That fear has kept you chained. The rebellion was about embracing it, but the ultimate truth goes further. It is about transforming it. Once you accept that darkness lives within you, it no longer controls you. Once you master your shadow, you can wield it with precision, not recklessness. Imagine the transformation. You no longer apologize for existing. You no longer shrink when others challenge you. You no longer fear being disliked. Instead, you stand rooted, embodying strength not because you are cruel, but because you are whole. People feel it when they are near you. They sense the unspoken truth. You are capable of kindness, but also of destruction. And that duality is what makes them respect you. This is not theory, it is lived experience. Think of the people you respect most in your own life. Perhaps a teacher who was strict, yet deeply invested in your growth. Perhaps a boss who was demanding but fair, whose disapproval stung more than anyone else's, but whose approval felt like victory. Perhaps a parent who could discipline you with terrifying intensity, yet also protect you with unwavering love. In every case, it was never love alone or fear alone was the mixture. The paradox is the power. But the ultimate truth carries an even greater weight. Respect is not just about commanding others, it is about commanding yourself. You cannot demand fear and love from the world if you cannot first integrate them within your own being. Do you fear yourself enough to respect your own boundaries? Do you love yourself enough to forgive your weaknesses while still demanding more of yourself? The external world is always a mirror of the internal. If you are fractured inside, separating shadow from light, aggression from kindness, then you will forever project that fracture outward. To command respect, you must first respect yourself. And self-respect is built not by denial, but by confrontation. You must look in the mirror and admit, I am capable of cruelty, I am capable of manipulation, I am capable of dominance, and then add, I choose to master these forces, not suppress them. That is when you stop fearing yourself, and start respecting yourself. And once you respect yourself, the world cannot help but follow. The cinematic beauty of this realization is that it flips everything on its head. The goal is not to choose fear over love, but to embody both so fully that people cannot separate them. They may love you, but they will never take advantage of you. They may fear you, but they will never despise you. They may disagree with you, but they will never dismiss you. And so the paradox that once haunted you as, it better to be loved or feared, resolves into clarity. The answer is neither. The answer is respect. And respect is only possible when you are both. Now imagine the life that unfolds when you live this truth. In your career, you no longer scramble for approval. You assert yourself, and others compline not because they like you, but because they respect the balance of warmth and steel you embody. In relationships, you no longer lose yourself in service. You give love, but you enforce boundaries with unwavering firmness. Your presence is both sanctuary and storm, and because of that, you are unforgettable. In your inner world, you no longer wrestle with shame for your darker impulses. You honor them, integrate them, and wield them with precision. This is the ultimate liberation. Not to banish fear, not to cling to love, but to wield both in harmony. To become whole. To stand as a figure people cannot ignore, cannot belittle, cannot erase. And so, the final image, you, standing not as the harmless soul begging to be liked, but as the integrated self-love in one hand, fear in the other, respect flowing from the tension between them. Some will love you, some will fear you, but all will respect you, and that respect will outlast everything else.